Hello everyone. It's really satisfying to tap the mic like that at the beginning. Thank you all for coming this evening. It's a real pleasure to be here, and it's lovely to be one of the first properly nice evenings that we've had. So wonderful, and welcome to anyone following us online. Thank you for joining us. There aren't really any kind of housekeeping things to mention this evening, so we're going to just fire into this. I am Charlie Roy. I am one half of Studio Bar Press, and Duncan Lockerbie, my colleague, is also here this evening, and we are Studio Bar Press together. We publish mostly poets, spoken word poets from Scotland, and often debut pamphlets. That's our kind of main thing, and we're really, really pleased to be here this evening at the wonderful Lighthouse Books, which is one of our favourite launch venues, with the amazing Gill Shaw. Thank you for coming down as well. This is very exciting. Jill has got her debut pamphlet, Touching Air. There you go. Ooh. We're going to try that one more time, okay? Jill's debut pamphlet, Touching Air. Much better, thank you. The Touching Air is Gill Shaw's debut pamphlet, as I mentioned. Jill is a queer poet living in the Highlands of Scotland, and where she balances writing with motherhood, lawyering and lecturing, which, quite frankly, is a lot. Like a lot. So I'm even more impressed. You run a monthly queer inclusive workshop in Inverness. Yep. You needed more things to do. And online. And you, with the aim of celebrating diversity, build a community through poetry and spoken word, which is also very much into the Studio Rhubarb wheelhouse. We love that. And you're going to be sharing with us some poems this evening from Touching Air, which explores the boundaries of poetic form, to explore the transient beauty of connection and the searing ache of heartbreak, loss, and longing. A great sentence you wrote there. Love it. So I'm going to let you read us some poems, and you can tell us a bit about the poems as we go along. Then we'll have a few questions, a little discussion ourselves, some more poems. Then if you guys have any questions, you can start brewing those already. And maybe if there are any online as well, we can take those. So without too much further ado, can everybody give Jill a lovely warm welcome, please?
Thank you, Charlie, and thank you, Lighthouse Books, for hosting, and thank you to all of you for a lovely warm welcome. Yes, so Touching Air is now in the world, so huge thank you to Charlie and Duncan for their support and agreeing to put the poems out into the world. So I'm going to start with a poem which really is about those first heady moments of a new relationship where you meet someone and you just want to know everything about everything that is important to them. So the first poem is called Ichibiha, which is Gaelic for whiskey, the water of life. You drink whiskey, so I want to learn about whiskey. Do you know the middle part of the second distillation is called the heart? Do you know the heart is the sweetest part? Ethanol filled, highly desirable, perfect for whiskey. If I were a gambling girl, I'd bet this is the only love poem in the world where the poet offers up the sweetest part of the second distillation. But I'm no gambler, except when I'm betting on a sure thing, and you are my sure thing. Jigger me malted, jigger me nosed, jigger me rare, bring me the sweetness of your second distillation, show me the acorn of your ethanol love. Yeah, your ethanol love, can you feel the tension and volatility already? So the second poem kind of relates a little bit to one of my favourite quotes about poetry, which is a quote by the poet Alex Klingenberg, who said, "A poem is just a moment made sacred by the noticing." And I think as writers and as poets particularly, that's what we do, we just notice moments. And I think there isn't any other poem in the pamphlet which more than this one talks about a moment or a series of moments that I noticed. The day you introduced me to your father, we sat on a bench that winked steel through chipped burgundy paint. You told me you liked my shoes. We sat long, the sun shone on unexpected ease, lit golden fleck. I saw granite stillness nod a blessing, heard silence speak an affirmation. I paused as we left, touched 2 fingers to stone, and made him a promise I didn't keep. In case you're interested, the shoes that I were wearing were a rather fetching pair of tan brogues, which my niece calls my man shoes. So the next poem is called The Angel Share, and it's another whisky poem. It's quite a popular thing to us in the Highlands. And the Angel Share is the little bit of whisky that evaporates while it's in the barrel. And I thought that was a beautiful phrase for something which really is talking about loss. So this is The Angel Share. I bought my favourite scarf in a Bodrum boutique. White gossamer, Aegean blue angel wing. I gave you my favourite scarf so you could wear me round your neck. On the day you break my heart for the first time, you return it. My favourite scarf, my poetry books, pink tissued, navy ribboned, with a card that tells me to stay spellbinding. My favourite scarf smells of you. I lie in the spot where you sat on the day our first kiss danced in the glint of your eye and woke from the flick of your tongue on your lip before landing. I could tell you wanted to kiss me. It was written all over the upturned corners of your mouth. Not a smile, not a pout, a moment when your mouth became want, became window, became reed. My favourite scarf smells of you. I hold it to my face and breathe in the absence of you, distilled and carried on angel's wing. My whisky barrel heart is still giving you the angel share. The smell of you lies heavy on my fingers again, but not from the places I touched you, where my fingertips made dents. Holy, unfillable places on the surface of your skin. The smell of you still lies heavy. My fingertips are no longer mine. They are gone. They're with you. They are still leaving dents on the surface of your skin. Thank you. This next poem came from a workshop that I attended with a lady called Angela Cleland, who became my editor for this pamphlet. She's a fantastic poet. Her latest collection, Real Cute Danger, is about the horror of childbirth, which I just love as a lens. So she's a fantastic poet, fantastic tutor. And in the workshop, she gave us a prompt where we had to write a poem that involved repetition, but also some kind of sense of movement. So this poem is about a moment that was imagined quite a lot. It's called Pausing Reality. Bring me your heels, stinging, nipped by marrow swords. Bring me the shingle that clings between your toes. Bring me the sand that dulls the go wilderness on your toenails. Bring me your salted shins. Bring me your thighs and the rise of their goosebumps. Bring me your bathing suit damp. Bring me the sun curled in the waves of your hair. Bring me the heat in the skin of your neck. Bring me the gas escaped from your lips. Bring me the peril of your teeth. Bring me the upturned corners of your mouth. Bring me the shine of your coconut shoulders and let my fingertips stick. I think it would be fair to say that I'm a little bit obsessed with the moon. So I have a really beautiful moon calendar, which is quite massive, in my living room, which was a gift from my friend Julie. And I like candles each phase of the new moon and the full moon and use crystals. And my friend Mel, who was kind enough to drive me down to Inverness, is driving me back up tonight to just north of Inverness. She always says that there's a weird juxtaposition between me as Jill the lawyer and how she manages me walking into court, and then all the kind of woo-woo witchy stuff that I do when it's a full moon. And I had to really restrain myself in this pamphlet, I think, to not have every poem talk about the moon, although it does creep in now and again. So this next poem is very much set in the world of the moon. And before we start, I'm going to give you some really brief anatomy lesson. So I didn't know any of this, I had to rely on Google, but it talks about two parts of the body. So one of them, like you have your collarbone here, like your clavicle, and if you shrug your shoulder, I'm going to give it a little go, there's a little dent just behind your clavicle, and that part is called the supraclavicular fossa, for those of you who didn't know. And then where your two collarbones meet, there's a little dent. You can stick your finger in it, not too hard, and you stop breathing. But if you put your finger in there, that part is called your jugular notch. So if you're sitting on your sofa sobbing like you've never sobbed before, that is the little dent, the little tears gathering. So that will help you understand the poem a bit better. It's called To Her Supraclavicular Fossa. I called her Luna in the moments when fingertip words were all I could reach with. She tethered me like the pull of the moon's gravity on Earth was her planet in place, until I lost her. To the ring on her finger and the gravity and the good in her bones. The clavicle is the only bone in the human body that lies horizontal, the bone that strains most to escape its orbits of muscle and sinew, rising to arch its beauty. That afternoon, her clavicle arched for my tongue when I let it pause, crescented in the empty hollow of you, her supraclavicular fossa. Her inhale of expectation cratered my tongue, faced it deeper into the space of her like a lunar pool, ebbed in the tide of her rising shoulders. Tonight, my clavicle horizons rise in the waning of her. Tears trace meridians pull in my jugular notch, the feel of you under my tongue eclipse. So I'm going to finish up this section with a poem which is called Shade Rose Libra's Hand, which I understand is an actual shade of Chanel lipstick. You kissed properly, I'll give you that. Maybe danger roused your mind. Her last kiss didn't announce itself. A quick double-double, 4 cheese pecks in a car park, 2 people. I drove home wearing your lipstick, knowing pink was never my colour. And what you won't get from just the reading of it is that this is a concrete poem in the shape of a lipstick. And when I first put it on the page, it looked a slightly different shape. And to me, it looked like a lipstick and it also looked like a bullet. And in lots of ways, I felt like I took a bullet in this relationship, so I was okay with that. And then when Angela came back with her first notes on the manuscript during the editing process, she wrote, Jill, this poem looks like a tampon. And when I looked at it, she was totally right. And of course, once I saw it, I can unsee it. So it no longer looks like a tampon, it does actually look like lipstick. So huge thanks to Duncan, who I worked with quite hard to make it not look like a tampon. And I think that really should be editor goals for every poet, is to find an editor who's brave enough to say to you, your concrete poem looks like a tampon.
Sorry about that, I almost forgot. So carried away. So I was just saying that thank you for sharing those poems. And on the note of the concrete poems, because there are a few, Angel Share that you read likewise has a particular layout, and as does clavicular fossa. So as you finished on that point, I thought I thought we might pick up on that slightly earlier than I was planning to, but you have got some concrete poems, and it's a really interesting way to explore the form. What led you to choosing that as a way of, playing, I guess, with the space on the page?
just stand up to this microphone. I think I like playing around with form. So there are some in the book which are in established poetic form, and we might talk about those a little bit later on. But I read a lot of poetry as well as write it, and I've seen lots of poets do really clever things with form and concrete poetry and how it looks on the page. So I think when I'm writing and when I'm editing, speaking is a big part of it. So I speak the poems quite a lot when I write and when I draft. And I read them obviously on the page, but I spend a lot of time as well looking at the page and how things sit on the page. And I'm a fan of concrete poetry. I think sometimes it can be really effective. And so yeah, that's why there's a big point.
So the other one that with its form kind of caught our eye, I don't think I've ever done one quite like this before, and I'd also have a question, but we've got the agreement of the grounds on which the affected parties shall engage, which is, obviously you're a lawyer, it's written like a contract. So my first question is this a legally valid contract? Because I never asked.
Yeah, it's nice to make it legally binding. I actually was actually in response to another prompt, which I did a course a couple of years ago now with a poet who's based in the States called Megan Falley. He runs a course which I would highly recommend called How to Write Poems That Don't Suck. And then the kind of graduate class is called After the Odes, and it spends a lot of time looking at form poetry, which I think where my interest in form poetry first came from. But Megan gave us a prompt where we had to write a poem that was kind of connected to our life in some way, that was a poem that only we could have written. And my day job is I am a lawyer, especially in employment law and discrimination, but I do a lot of legal drafting in terms of contracts. And while I do like the challenge of writing an established poetic form, I think sometimes it's nice to kind of push the boundaries and do things that I haven't seen done before. And I've never seen a poem written as a legal contract before either. So it's quite satisfying, I think, to find a point of entry to write something that is written in a way that as far as I'm aware, you haven't come across before.
I've not seen one before either. It was one of those things that, wow, this is not only really interesting form-wise, but it's a good poem too, because that's not always an easy match. Sometimes I can see where you were going, but it's really exciting and different. So yeah,
I don't think it's one I would ever read, because with the best will in the world, it's really hard to make a legal contract sound interesting. Even though I was trying to say that would be quite a good poem. But yeah, I think it is a good poem.
Unless you do it as like a video. And we get people with wigs, and I'll stop there because otherwise my ideas get unusual. So you've mentioned writing courses a few times as well, which is I think worth picking up on, because obviously you've got a lot from that, and you've worked also, I believe, with Michael Pedersen and Holly McNeish.
Yeah.
So tell us a bit about that.
Yeah. So when I came to writing again, really in lockdown, I did write a little bit in school. But then, academic life and career and motherhood and things get in the way. But I had a little bit of extra capacity during lockdown, so I came back to poetry, so reading it and also writing it. And I just became a bit of a poetry workshop junkie, to be honest. And lots of stuff moved online, which made it much more accessible, which was fabulous. So I was able to access stuff that I wouldn't ordinarily have been able to access. And yeah, some of the tutors out there running workshops, they just have incredible prompts. So lots of the poems in the book came from prompts from other poets. And last year I was incredibly fortunate to do a tutored week at Monackmore, Scotland's Writing Centre. And if you haven't been and you have an interest in writing in any form, I would totally recommend it. It's a magical place, and it's really close to where I live, which is very handy. And yeah, Julie and I were on the same course last year. There was 11 of us, and we just bonded. And I call my poetry family now. And lots of us are still in touch and do lots of things together. But the tutors on that week were Michael Peterson and Holly McNeish, who are incredible poets, but also just really lovely, lovely people. And they did a gig in Ichibiha, her local theatre in Inverness last month. And they asked me to go along and do a couple of just open the set, which, to go from speaking to a room of maybe 10 people to step onto stage with like 200 people in the audience was more than a little bit scary, I'm not gonna lie, but it was an incredible opportunity. But and I think that's what I find with the poetry community and with other poets. They are just so generous with sharing their knowledge and their experience, and giving opportunities and support and encouragement. So it's a really, really beautiful thing to be part of.
I think definitely the value of joining courses or writing workshops is something that maybe isn't often spoken about, but so many writers I think find that, and I think it's a great way to find your voice. So yeah, it's definitely a really good thing. You worked with Angela Cleland as one of your mentors, and of course we were then able to pair her up as your editor. So can you tell us a bit more about that?
Yeah, sure. So Angela was one of the poets who kind of did some workshops online that I signed up for, and she was born in Inverness and grew up in Dingle, the town where I live now, although she lives in the south of England now. But our local Dingle bookshop advertised some of the courses that she was running, so that's how I came to get about them. And signed up and did her workshops, and her books were just amazing. And then some of us set up a kind of critical group, so we would circulate a poem each one, and then get together on Sunday afternoon at the end of the month and give each other feedback, and that was invaluable. Where you have another 4 or 5 sets of eyes on your work, telling you what works, or telling you where things are a bit clunky, or telling you that they think what you've written means something that you really didn't intend at all. So that was really helpful. So Angela was familiar with my work, and then when we talked about getting somebody on board to edit, I immediately thought of her, and she's just fantastic at picking up typos and grammar and things that didn't work. So yeah, it was a joy to work with Angela. Highly recommend her as an editor at Sports Tutor. She's fab and working with them really good.
Yeah, I think it's a great thing in Studio about we are able to pair people, and it's a joy for us as well to get to know other people in that way and to see the work that we've been sent get polished, and it's just such a wonderful process, and it elevates things. And when you've been able to pair a poet with an editor that they trust, it feels like a wonderful thing to facilitate it. So it's a great joy to us that somebody we perhaps didn't have in our sphere at that point has kind of come in that way. I'm going to segue over to, you've mentioned obviously Dingwall and being up in the Highlands a few times, and one of the things I remember Duncan and I were going through submissions, and we've got like this massive pile of submissions, and I'll do a read through and then send like a chunk over, and Duncan does a read through and then come back, and then it goes backwards and forwards and so on. And one of the things that really struck us with this when we were comparing notes was we both kind of came up with the fact of it being deeply steeped in Highlands, but without it being in any way, well, tartan shortbread. I mean, it's not like cutting about it. It's yeah. So can you talk just a bit about the sense of place in the work?
Yeah, I think. I mean, certainly for me, I draw inspiration for the poems from all over. I mean, they're largely, touching here, I think the Heartbreak pamphlet is about its connection with loss of it and where that left me. But I guess the points of entry for a lot of that are, connected with the Highland landscape and the things that we do in the Highlands to drink a lot of whiskey. But lots of it has kind of references to places that are kind of really special places. So I think that's kind of sin to all of my writing, just because I've lived there for more than 20 years. And it's just a magical place, really. So I think that filters into what I write.
It's got a beautiful sense of connection, which we really appreciated. With then, I think we'll have like maybe another question or two, and then we'll move back to your reading. So from that point of view, the kind of sense of place and so on, we've got the heartbreak, but it's not a pamphlet that just sits in that heartbreak. There is a sense of journey and progression. Was it important to you to kind of move through that?
Yeah, I think originally I envisaged that the poems would become a collection. And then when I thought about it a bit more, I realised that there is a journey. And I think Touching Here is probably the first part of that. So I think it is about, the heartbreak, the loss, where that left me. And I think there's a hint of the start of the healing. But I think the writing that I'm doing now is much more about the healing process. So whatever comes next, I think will be much more focused on the healing. But I think you do get a hint of that, particularly in the last poems.
It's not bleak.
No. Well, some of it's a little bleak. Oh, bleak.
If you read it through, you're going to get to the end. But yeah. So just to talk, to pause a moment on your process though for writing, because you're obviously very busy, and I'm very interested in the process.
Yeah. So when I did the course with Megan Valley, she came up with this really great analogy, which I love, and she talked about people writing in different ways, and she talked about the people who sit with a blank page and they sit down and they just put stuff on the page, and you get the first draft of something that's really quite beautiful and it just needs a little bit of tweaking. And she calls those people swoopers. So blank page, let's just write and fill it. And that's a swooper. That's not me. Like, I just can't write that way. So the other kind of writer, which is definitely what I am, is called a basher. So I, like, sometimes I come away from a workshop and I've maybe got like 4 words, or I've got 2 lines that maybe don't necessarily sit together because I'm really meticulous. I don't know if it's a week of training or if I'm just a bit of a perfectionist, but I can't move on until I've got the exact word that's going to be in the final edit. And so, yeah, the writing process is not a quick one for me. And I think the way, I guess it varies. Sometimes I'll have a bit of a thought, or I'll have a phrase that will come to me in the shower or when I'm just about to fall asleep. So I have notebooks all over the house that I've got, like, bits of things. And then I stole one of, I have a 5-year-old son, and so I stole one of his A3 sketch pads. And every time I have a number of thoughts that come together in something that I think might make a poem, I put all those bits on post-it notes on a page of this A3 pad, so it kind of sits there. And then eventually, when I've got something that I think, okay, I might be able to start to put this on the page, I open a words tab and I start to type. But that could sit open for weeks or months while I think about it some more. And so, yeah, it's not quick. And I remember doing a workshop, and we did an online session, and Julie, you were there, I think, and one of our other poetry family, Amy, who is in Yorkshire and kind of joined us online, she was like, oh my goodness, I'm so distracted, I can't write because you've got so many tabs open on your laptop. And she's right, there were just all these Word documents with all these like half-written poems. So yeah, I don't know if that's helpful. It's interesting. It's interesting, yeah. Well, that's the process. And having said that, sometimes there is something that just lands really quickly. Like, there's one poem which I'm not going to share tonight because every time I read it, I just come completely undone. It's still too raw. It's called Conversations with My 4-year-old, which is in 3 parts. And the last part, I tried to read it on Sunday night as a bit of a practice because I really love the poem. And I get myself a migraine from crying so much, so I'm not going to share that with you tonight because you really don't need to see that. But it came really quickly. And I think because there's no editing, it's just things that my son said and then the meaning that I gave to them. But yeah, you won't be hearing that from tonight. You have to read it.
Brilliant. Excellent. Well, thank you for sharing all of that with us. That's absolutely, you've been very generous with sharing your process and everything. So thank you. Right, audience, we're going to read a few, well, Jill's going to read it. I'm going to listen. Jill's going to read a few more poems to us. And if you guys have any questions afterwards, we'll have the opportunity to take a couple of questions. And then that sounds good. And we'll maybe do some book signings and things. Yeah. Awesome. Right, okay. So take it away, Jill.
Okay. So I hadn't originally planned to share this poem, but I was chatting to Manny. So Manny and I were on the phone earlier, and Manny said she had read the collection and had enjoyed it, and she told me which poem was her favourite poem. So given that she told me that, I thought, well, I better read that one. So yeah, this is a poem that you weren't going to hear, but you are now because it's Manny's favourite. And yeah, I like a snappy title, as you'll hear. So this one is called. Well, before I tell you, it's written as a sonnet, which is kind of form which starts with the first line, which is 9 syllables, and then the second line has 8 syllables. The third line is 7, and then can go on, and it reduces down. So it's written as a sonnet, and I wrote it at a time where the heartbreak was still very raw, and all I had been able to do was write list poems. So this was just magic because it was the first time I'd been able to write a poem that wasn't a list poem. So it's called Untitled Poem, which makes it into my pamphlet after my doctor writes to my publisher to advise that allowing me to use a hyphen in a sonnet would be a reasonable adjustment. Snappy, right? Today I know that I am healing. For the first time since you left me, I wrote a poem that is not a list poem. There's no figurative language, but it is in poetic form. That's all I want to say to my hat. So the next poem is in strict form, and what I love about form is it's kind of like a jigsaw in poetry. So you know what the rules of the form are, and you've got to try and get the poem to land. in that form, although not always, because extras are always there to be broken, but this did follow the form. So it's written as a glossa, and in a glossa, you borrow 4 rhyming lines from another poet, and then you write 4 stanzas of 10 lines, and one of your borrowed lines becomes the last line of each stanza. It's a little bit complicated. So my borrowed lines are from Philip Larkin, and he says it's in quite small writing, so I'm going to push that out. The trees are coming into leaf, like something almost being said. The recent buds relaxed and spread. Their greenness is a kind of grief. And my response to that is the observation of water. Spring slithers in like lithium snaking through veins, lifting the depression of winter. In its wake, snowdrops hang, weary heads, crocuses swarm. Nature sings a siren song, I answer. I keep coming upon bodies, so many bodies of water, benches by beaches, by riverbanks, by lochans. The trees are coming into leaf. Growth unfurls in stillness. Stillness gives water a voice, urges it to speak up. I listen for the gasps of waves on empty shores, listen for the whispers of rivers writhing along pebbled paths. I search for the truth held in the open mouths of bodies of water, like something almost being said. I sit on benches with the echo of our conversations. The air screams your absence. I wonder if you sit with her on any of these benches. The screaming air stills. Silent bodies of water hold their truth in open mouths. Branches stretch, breathe, growth unfurls in stillness. The recent buds relax and spread their leafy wings. Waves take to the air like dancers taking to the floor, waltzing to the gasps of waves, the whispers of rivers, the truth held in the open mouths of bodies of water. That summer's tender dance will always lead to autumn's fall. I toe the blades of grass at my feet. My ribs still cage my emerald jealousies. Their greenness is a kind of grief. Thank you. One thing that I learned after writing that poem and after putting it in the manuscript was about copyright and the use of other writers' work. And then a couple of days before it was in for printing, I had this panicked email to Duncan going, I don't have copyright permission to use Philip Larkin. So I had to then go onto Freeware and get a license for permission to use the Philip Larkin rights because I probably doesn't really work for him. And I made a mental note to never again write a glossa for publication. But I do love the poem. This next poem, I guess I should say my sister is one of the people that I admire most in the world. And for 10 years, she worked as a chartered accountant specialising in dividend tax. And then she realised it did make her heart sing. And part of me is like, it took you 10 years. And one night she watched the television programme Dragon's Den. And there was a woman on there who wanted to set up a business that could teach pregnant women yoga. So my sister, who had never taken a yoga class in her life before, went into work the next day, quit her job, bought the franchise, and trained to be a yoga teacher for pregnant women, which I just think is amazing. So she made the transition from the tax accountant to moon worshipping yogi. And when I met Luna, I called my sister to tell her about this woman that I'd met and this incredible connection. And she said to me, yeah, she's your twin flame. Go and Google it. So I did Google it and I read about twin flames, and it said that your twin flame is the one person across all of your lifetimes who shares your soul. And when you meet them, you just know it because energetically you just match each other just on every level. And it said that the relationships were fated and destined, but unfortunately, fate and destiny were not shining on this particular twin flame connection. And so this poem really is about losing the person who feels like the other half of you. And it's written after a poet called Daphne Gottlieb. And She wrote a poem with the same title, and it's called 15 Ways to Stay Alive. 1. Cry as often as you need to, so you don't drown from the inside. 2. Cast a binding spell to undo her magic. 3. Make an appointment for acupuncture. Let the acupuncturist read heartbreak on your tongue. 4. Even if all you eat is mini egg. 5. Remember to breathe when her name is a sobbing climate. 6. Use your body as a billboard. Wear clothes that scream affirmations you don't believe in yet. Love. Feeling good. Today is going to rock. 7. Forget you wore the shirt that says today is going to rock the day she kissed you for the first time. Pretend forget she ever kissed you at all. 8. Pretend today really does rock. Grab an air guitar, keep your heart out of the mosh pit. 9. Buy a BFF bracelet for dry shampoo. 10. Take yourself to the movies. Wear a slash of red lipstick. 11. Try forest bathing. Plant bare feet on the ground like blades of grass to the only blades that touch your skin. 12. Build a bomb shelter from Oracle cards 13. Forget there are twin flames 14 like a single flame to burn the card she sent you that told you to stay spellbinding. 15. Stay spellbinding. Thank you. This poem, I haven't yet been able to read without crying. So there's a slight disclaimer there that there may be a few tears. I'm going to give it a go because I love it. I'm hoping that the adrenaline might prevent the tears. So yeah, fingers crossed by that. It's written after Ollie O'Neill, who's an incredible poet, I think queer poet who has a collection called The Things We Are Given. So this is a poem after Ollie O'Neill's title poem from that collection. It's called The Things That I Am Left With. Theatre ticket. A tin of paint. Insomnia. The last drops in a department store sample of your favourite perfume. A print of the moon as it looked over her head on the night that we met. 5 unopened gifts, beautifully wrapped. A firm pillow on your side of the bed. A quarter bottle of Moonlight Magic. A length of navy ribbon. A Spotify subscription, 4 goodbye playlists, 9 songs I can't listen to. A craving for chocolate brownies. A flame-shaped stone that I picked off the beach. Lingerie with the tag still on. An envelope inked with my initial. A pair of flip-flops to wear when I bring in the washing. 367 scenery. Used hankies in every pocket. Mascara stains on every pillowcase. 16 sets of Oracle card street tarot decks, red spell candles, clear quartz, lunar quartz, smoky quartz, an empty wine bottle, a boarding pack, an unread book of poetry, a signed agreement, a packet of rebels, autumn in a vase, a 3-inch scar, four skipping stones, a page torn from a notebook. I do love you. Okay, so my final poem is a poem that touches on the Japanese concept of wabi-sabi, which is all about finding beauty in things which are imperfect and impermanent. It's because I reflect on our relationships with the lens of wabi-sabi. In late May, cherry blossoms strew the pavement. Their petals are tiny pink tears. The flattened edges curl and rip and brown. Never was an ending wet so tenderly.
Thank you for that. So we do have time for a few questions. And we can also check if there are any online. But we'll start in the room. Has anyone got a question for Jill? You've got a question for Jill, yes. Just repeat that for the online. So the question was, at what point with the poetry does Jill start to say them out loud, particularly with concrete poetry?
I start speaking out loud really early on. So yeah, even the phrases that I jot down in notebooks, I start by speaking, because I think the sound of things is really important. There's one girl who comes along to our monthly workshop who also is part of our poetry family. And we were having a chat about this a couple of weeks ago, and she was saying that she too writes by speaking. And it's quite often a difficult thing to do when you're in a workshop setting with lots of people around the table if you write by speaking. Where you're like, you're like trying to keep on your breath so nobody can hear you so you don't disturb anybody else. But her and I both kind of write in the same way where we can speak it, I think, before we put it on the page. So yes, the speaking is there kind of almost from the beginning. And I change things a lot by repeating them out loud. And there's another part to your question.
I think it's just mostly with it becoming concrete.
With the concrete, yeah. I think the concrete bit comes later. I think the poem comes as the poem. And then there are some where I think, like the lipstick one, I wrote the poem. And then I thought, actually, this would work as a concrete poem if I make it lipstick shaped, not tampon shaped. So yeah, I think the concrete part comes later. And the same with the last one, the I reflect on our relationship with the lens of Wabi Sabi. It's in the shape of half a tear. So it also is a concrete poem. But I wrote the poem and then made it concrete. So yeah, I think that comes later when I'm thinking about how it looks on the page.
Brilliant. So we've got a question online from Carl. Hi, Carl. Thank you for joining us. Which is, which poets inspire you and your work?
Wow, that's a really difficult question. They laugh at me in the workshop because I say this poet is in my top 5 at the moment because I keep discovering new poets who I love, and my top 5 favourite poems change. So I can give you a hint of my top 5 favourite poems at the moment. So my absolute favourite poet ever is Andrew Gibson. I think their work is just genius. Anybody know Andrew Gibson? Go read their work. Just stunning. So their favourite poem of mine is Royal Hearts, and I can't read it just now because it's too raw. There's just 2 lines in there that I can't undone, try a lot. So yeah, Andrew Gibson is amazing. Also in my top 5 at the moment is an Edwin Morgan poem called Strawberries. And Michael Peterson introduced us to it actually at Moniac when we did the course with him, and I loved it so much, and I'd never heard it before we did the course last year. I started reading it every morning, but there's 2 lines in it that I just come undone when I read those 2 lines. So I had to stop because I was just starting every day, like just crying at Edwin Morgan. So I had to stop that, but I do love the poem Strawberries. There is another poem that I love by a poet, an American poet who is quite into the kind of slam spoken word scene called Rachel Wiley. Queer poet, I think I've heard of Rachel Wiley, yeah. So she has an incredible poem called Belly Kitten, which is all about fat shame against the background of lesbian sex, what and what to like about that. So yeah, I love Belly Kitten by Rachel Wiley. And then another one, which I talked earlier about the Alice Klingenberg quote about, just capturing the moment, poem is just a moment in secret by the noticing. And there's an incredible poem by Natalie Diaz, which is called I Watch Her Eat the Apple. And it's about her just observing her lover eat the apple. And it's just the most beautiful, like the imagery in there. I get the punch in the feel that I'm actually got goosebumps just thinking about the poem. So yeah, that's been in my top 5 for quite a long time. So yeah, those are some of the things that I love at the moment, but I read a lot and it changes a lot.
Love all of that. I'm thinking I need to take a note of those and look them up. Excellent. So anybody else in the room with a question? I'm getting mine.
Yeah, I do. I think that Duncan designed the cover of Touching Air, and I absolutely fell in love with it when he sent through the proofs. I was like, yes, then let's do the pink one because it looks beautiful. And I love it so much that I got it tattooed on my arm. And I showed him tonight. He was like, oh, and I was like, doesn't everybody do that? Tattoo their book cover on their arm? Not sure about that, but yeah, no, I do. Yeah, I have it tattooed, but I absolutely fell in love with the cover. So thank you.
I think that's probably the highest compliment that publishers could possibly have. And yeah, it's Duncan who does the amazing work on all the covers that we have. So yeah, I love it too. I think we're also very like, so she goes for the pink. The pink is awesome. Do the pink. So yeah,
Yeah, and part of that, well, I have a poem in there that ends, I drove home wearing lipstick, no pink was never my colour. It's a little ironic that I have a postage pamphlet pink cover. But there also is a line in there that talks about pink tissue navy ribbons, which was kind of where the inspiration came from. Yeah.
it's lovely. You should all make sure you have a copy. And so unless you have any more pressing questions, you're going to want to sign a few. Yes. Yeah.
I think in the beginning they were just for me, and I thought a lot about why I wrote them. And I anticipated that somebody might say, did it help with the heartbreak writing them? And I think my initial response was going to be, no, it didn't, because I still have really vivid memories of being a hot mess on my living room floor and on the sofa trying to edit and sit with them and revisit it over and over again. But I read something just within the last couple of months, an article online, can't tell you who wrote it, my memory's really bad. And I'm approaching 50. So it was an article and it was talking about art and the healing process, and specifically talking about the painting. But as I was reading it, I was thinking, actually, this applies equally to poetry. And what the article said was, art is really helpful in the healing process because it gives you somewhere to put the pain that's not inside your body. And there was something in that that really resonated. But I think right now I don't have enough distance to have the clarity on why I felt I had to write. I just knew that I had to write. And I'm not saying for a second that because I put it on the page, I'm not carrying it in my body anymore, because I still, I cry. I still carry the weight of her absence every day. So yeah, all of that kind of pain and loss is all still there. But I think in time, I will be able to look back and see part of it was about having somewhere to put it. But originally I did that for myself. And then I kind of thought, well, one of the, I did a module at our local university of Highlands. There's an incredible poetry tutors there called Mandy Haggett. I don't know if anybody's called Mandy. So Mandy tutors a module on the creative writing to give writing poetry, and I took her module a couple of years ago. And she gave me some feedback and said, you should publish some of your work. So that was really the first thing that got me thinking, actually, I could put this out into the world. And I think when I read poems that I really resonate with, you kind of feel validated, like you're not alone. So part of me, kind of in time, when it became a little bit less raw, thought actually somebody might be different and be like, you know what, yeah, I feel that, and I'm not alone. So that kind of is why I put them in. But I'm not going to lie, there is a huge vulnerability when it's largely autobiographical. Yeah, there is a lot of me, and sometimes that's not comfortable. It's out there now.
I was just going to say, if I could pick up slightly from the publishing point of view, because I think we have a duty of care there as well. And certainly that's something that, we have conversations and think, do we think that even if this is still quite raw, we're not trying to, we need to make sure that we think you're safe with that. And that was certainly something that we felt. And I think that was important to us as well, because I think you can be given work as a publisher where you think, I'm not sure that this person with their writing is necessarily ready for this to be out in the world at this level. And that's certainly something that we felt that you are on your journey, but you're definitely ready to take this step. And certainly, your work is wonderful, and it's a joy for us that it can be, and that we can make sure that it's also a lovely way of kind of bringing this to people, so that there's that kind of comes into the thought when dealing with something that is this raw.
And I think too, I think there are lots of kind of heartbreak and grief and loss poems out there, but not so many with a queer lens. And I think it's quite important for me to be visible and to kind of push that out there too. And so yeah, that was the part of the process.
Absolutely. I don't think there's much more we can say. I think you've been so generous with your thoughts and telling us everything that we could possibly want to know. It's been absolutely wonderful, and it's a real joy to have brought this collection, this pamphlet out. It's superb, and I hope there'll be some more writing. Yeah, we're very, very proud of it. So I'd like to, if we all put our hands together and give Gill a lovely big round of applause. Congratulations on your pamphlet.